Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Peachy's Little Podcast. I'm your host, Peachy, with my co-host, Tro here. T-Ro. Still
Hello?
getting used to that.
You will never get it. We'll be by episode 10, you won't get it. Hello, I am Tiro,
Nope.
and today we will be discussing the fighting types, and we are joined by two special guests. First off, we are joined by Grankie,
Hello, how's it going?
and we are also joined by OG Albina.
How's it going? Thanks for having me. I'm excited to waffle about some Little Cup.
Yeah, thank you both for
So,
joining.
Me too.
Oh yeah, of course, I'm excited.
All right.
so of course, as all of us know, fighting type is the single best type in Little Cup, hands down. Um, but for those who don't know, we're going to discuss a little bit about why fighting type is so good. Um, so one of the big things, first off, is that there are very few fairy types. I think there's what? There's like
Spritzy,
Fritzy,
Snubble,
by Snubble, Tinkatink, and that's about it.
and Tinky
Whoa,
Tink
whoa,
doesn't
Yeah,
even
whoa, whoa,
it's
exist.
whoa,
not
whoa.
only
Cleffa?
and
Come
there's a
on, guys.
few
Oh, we are
there's a
discussing
few
Clobba.
like there's a
Oh,
few like there's a few fairies that are good, like in the sense of like Tinkatink is okay, but that's neutral to fighting, and then there's a couple others like really the only like true fighting checks in my mind in Little Cup like that just always take on any fighting that you're talking about are gonna be like Snubble and probably Spritzy in most instances, but most of them are a knock into a coverage move, like a jab or a gunk away from dying. Like every single one of
yeah.
them, and they're all slow. And the lower tier ones are, I mean, they get 2 KO by close combat.
Yeah, the lower
Yeah,
tier
there's
ones
Wait,
don't
like
exist.
exactly.
Mime. Yeah, there's like Mime Junior, which 4 times resists fighting, but you're like dead to any poison move ever.
Or knockoff.
I think in general, like, fighting types are generally like high stats, high attack, and they've got high jump kick, they've got close combat and drain punch and all that stuff. They're just strong Pokemon, and you just muscle through like an offensive meta game. So
Yeah, in a
that's
very
Yeah,
how.
and
offensive metagame, they just go hard.
Well, and that's
the
the
other
thing in
thing
Little Cup in
too.
general. You
Oh,
kind of
sorry.
mentioned it with high jump kick. Little Cup, I feel like Mon's very so like obviously like the attacking stats are kind of all really close to each other, and there's very few mons that really set themselves apart with crazy attacking stats. There's one, a lot of fighting types do have that, but two, a lot of it's dictated by just like high base power moves, right? Like a mon can be generally kind of mid and weak, but if I'm clicking close combat and gunk shot off my Mankey, there's nothing to switch into that combination of moves comfortably, especially if I'm you turning around things like that. And that's one of the fightings without knockoff. And I think a lot of these really viable fightings getting knock, like the top end ones, makes them like incredibly difficult to deal with. In particular, anything with knock plus good coverage and a decent enough speed tier is going to be pretty over centralizing.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
that's another thing I wanted to mention is obviously with all the high-end fighting types like Crabrawler, Pancham, Scraggy, Timburr, um, all of them having knockoff, even stuff like ghost types and psychic types are really risky to switch into. Even like the bulkiest of them, you're usually going to be two-shot with how strong the fighters are.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
Oh,
even something like flying types, most, not all, but most of the good flying types are only neutral to fighting, like Doduo, Tailo, Pikipek. The only ones coming to mind that aren't is like Wattrel, Wingull, and I'm probably missing something, but
Wingle's dying to
but
knock off
again, and
most
if we
fighting
think
move.
if we also
yeah.
if we think of it in the sense of just like again the offensive coverage that fightings have, 90% of them have rock slide, 90% of them have ice punch or thunder punch, right?
Mhm.
So we have the coverage moves necessary. On top of rocks, where like boots aren't as valuable, I feel in Little Cup. We typically get a lot more value out of items like berry juice, items like Eviolite, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like a scarf, something of the sorts, to where it's a lot harder to run boots. So the combination of rocks plus a close combat. I mean, even if you do resist close combat, if you resist high jump kick, you're still taking like 50-60%. You got like one more switch into rocks, maybe if you're lucky enough to kind of spec yourself that way.
And you also got to
Yeah, for
think as
sure.
well, they've got fantastic synergy with other Pokemon as well. Like the psychic type Pokemon, the two best are Aber and Pony. They kind of run shit, and fighting types beat their checks too. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and there's
Well,
very few steals already. Like Those two types just run this meta.
Or just like an offensive, it's a tried and true like combination of like offensive fighting plus pawnyard. I
True.
mean, those offensive psychics can run a metagame, but if we ever pressure them to come in to take a close combat, we hit them with a U-turn, and we get into our pawnyard for free, or even if we just make an aggressive double because we're playing in such an offensive and aggressive metagame, if we can make the call and make that double into that pawnyard, we're putting our opponent in a really, really tough position, like in a really, really tough spot. So like you said, either facilitating the psychics or facilitating the darks, and I think those are like kind of the three dominant offensive. Well, we also have flying. Three of the four dominant offensive typings really puts teams in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Even flyings. I mean, you beat the flying checks, right? You beat rocks and steals.
Exactly.
So, I mean, really, it is kind of, while maybe not the most broken typing alone, the coverage plus like the facilitation of the other broken things in the metagame makes good offensive fighting really broken.
But it's not even just
Yeah, I mean-
offense as well, right? It's defensively too. You
Mhm.
kind of find that in games, the person who has the healthier offensive fighting has the more control, right? So
Mhm.
you have they give you resistance to knockoff. You don't want to be switching into knockoff, obviously, but they also give you resistance to stuff rock and all those typings and stuff, and they just give you just so much control.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. All right. That's pretty much in-depth analysis of why the fighting type is so good. Honestly, I do agree. I think it is the best typing in Little Cup, in the Little Cup draft format at the very least. And so we'll now go over some of the best ones. We'll start out with the good old tried and true Timburr. So what makes Timburr so good?
Strong
I think-
priority plus knock,
Yeah.
I think, is the main thing, right?
It's just
Putting your
good.
Yeah, it's really fat. It can be decently fast in some matchups too. I mean, you can run that max speed adamant timber and catch a lot of fat off guard and just blow them up. But it's just the pressure that strong mock punch provides. A really good status absorber as well. Having a fighting not afraid to get burned is really nice. It's very often a way you deal with an offensive fighting is slapping a burn on that guy on a pivot in or something of the sort. So being able to not only shake that off but get stronger, force really uncomfortable positions between, are they going to mock and pick me off, or are they going to knock off my berry juice as I pivot into something else to take this mock punch, is really, really stressful on a team.
Yeah.
And I think something
Timber-
else that I want to mention with it is also the ability Iron Fist. Sometimes you can just bluff that
Mhm.
you're actually guts, and
Oh yeah.
with that you can use Iron Fist to boost your moves like Mock Punch or your Drain Punch or your Elemental Punches. So sometimes you don't even have to have guts. You can just bluff enough that your opponent's too scared to click Will-O-Wisp into you.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's it. I actually think that Iron Fist is the superior ability, but the fact that your opponent is scared to click guts, you're right, Peachy. It's so good.
Yeah. That's like I agree. I think Iron Fist is the better ability. Guts is like the niche one, but at the same time, you always have to respect the guts. Like when you're
I've
Ponyta,
also
Yeah.
found it.
you're
I've
kind of
also
running
found
runaway.
I've also found it really valuable on like in LC in general is like having that one sponge mon that is going to do a shit ton of damage back. Like, right, Timbur's really, really strong, but having something that is bulky enough with an EVO to live one of pretty much anything on the other side can be really game changing. In a lot of instances when things boost up to +1 or +2, and you can eat that hit because Timbur's fat enough with an Eviolite. And again, we're at a position in this metagame where our knockoffs, our fighting stab, our coverage moves, they're gonna do enough damage to the things you need to hit. Regardless, we can spec pretty heavily in Timbur's bulk and get a ton of value out of that guy. And there's some hits you really shouldn't think, or you really wouldn't think you're going to. And I think that's also really nice to kind of reset tempo and take away a big piece of your opponent's squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that another thing with Timburr is you can even kind of go for, I don't know if bulky sweeper is the right term, but you can use bulk up. And with Iron Fist Drain Punch, you fucking heal a lot of stuff back, and it's really hard to kill you.
Yeah.
I think at worst it
100%.
goes 1-for-1. I think every single game. I think
Mhm.
in general, it's just so easy to pick up kills. It should be getting 1 or 2 kills.
Yeah,
per game,
Timburr
and like
Timburr
a weak
definitely
sort
is
of
like a 1-for-1 mon at the very least, if not just more.
exactly. And it's hazard removal, guys. It gets defog. Oh,
Oh, so true.
It does get
Mm.
defog. You know, if you forgot to draft a good spinner, it has defog for you.
no,
I
but that
mean,
also brings me to
sometimes
the
it's
next point
useful.
too.
You can kind
Sorry,
of use it against a Web's team or something, maybe.
the thing is, Drain, Mark, and Notch. Sorry, I'll start again. Drain, Mark, and Knock are just so good to have. Like, it's so hard to fit anything else on. Like, you probably need coverage as that last move, or you probably need bulk up. You probably need, if you want to actually run guts, like, it's so hard to drop Eviolite as well if you want to run Flavor. Flame Orb is so niche. I think it's a mon that really needs Eviolite too. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
overall, Timbur's pretty predictable, but it's just too good at what it does too.
Yeah, it's like it's
Yeah, I think the
predictable,
only-
but you still have to face it.
And it's
Like
not
you,
that
you
it's
might
bad
know
that
my
Timbur's
4 moves,
predictable.
but okay, now switch in.
What kind of sucks though is like not necessarily that Timburr has to run Eviolite and that makes it bad. It does put a lot of stress on your team building process though. When you have
Yeah.
one that needs to run an item 90% of the time. Because I do agree. I think Flame Orb in 90% of instances is pretty terrible. And really cutting
Yeah.
into that bulk and shipping yourself down even more is kind of tough. So that can be straining on a team builder. I think you really need to account for that in the drafting process. That you're only going to have one Eviolite a week if you're playing with item clause.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of Timbur's big weaknesses is, like Grankie said, kind of that you always have to have Drain, Mock, Punch, and Knockoff. And something that I noticed, I actually played in a league recently where I had to face 2 Timburs in a Timburr 1 week and Timburr the next week, and I just kind of kept the same plan of, well, either they're not running bulk up or they can't do shit to my cutie fly. So it was either this Timburr is way less threatening because it can't bulk up, or my cutie fly just sits on it. So that 4 move slot syndrome can be kind of big on Timburr depending on your matchup.
Yeah, that's another thing about Timburr is it's like the one high tier fighting type that really struggles against fairies.
Yeah, I mean it does get poison jab, but it's not the easiest to fit.
Yeah, exactly. You
And
can
even
run
then, like
poison
the
jab,
fairy
but then you have
matchup,
to you have to like fit it, and then at the same time you're not OHKOing any of the fairies or cutie flies outspeeding you.
yeah, like cutie flies outspeeding you. It's Fritzy might outspeed you depending on how you want to do that. You can EV your Timburr to outspeed a Spritzy, but sometimes you even run into Trick Room sets, and then Snubbull just has Intimidate, so you're definitely not one-shotting that.
But also, let's
So
be real,
Timburr,
right? It's 3 mons we're talking about. I think Cutie Pie is probably the most common out of those.
Mm-hmm.
Snubble's there, but Spritzy is good, but nobody seems to draft it these days either. So
yeah, I noticed that a lot. People just always skip over Spritzy.
Spritzy is like the anti-Metamon, where it's good against a lot of top threats, but at the same time, it's very hard to build around.
Yeah,
which is
I wish they just gave
all
it
the better for
Mystical
Timburr.
Fire.
Yeah, all
It's
the
all
better
the
for
better for
Timburr.
Timburr, guys.
Yep. All right, next we have Scraggy, little squiggles. Why is Scraggy so good?
Oh, I love it because he's a dark type too. It's that simple. There's 3 viable fairies. It knocks all of them. Then they don't take hits anymore. You DD later and you win. Your Scarf Moxie and you win. Your DD Taunt, your Evio, your Roselli, your Choppel. I mean, there's so many different. It's like the exact opposite of Timburr in the sense that I think it can do so much. Like it's still gonna fill the same niche of like, strong fighting type attacker, win con kind of like sponge, but it can do so many different things and has 3 great abilities and it can kind of spec itself in so many ways. It's probably, in my opinion, like a top 3 most oppressive one in the builder, like in general.
That's true.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my god, prepping against
something-
Scraggy is annoying as it's like you also, when you're playing it, you have to respect it as well because like even if you're steamrolling, when there's a Scraggy
yeah.
Yeah.
it'll just
I think
it'll just
something
get
that I want to
one-boxed.
mention, something like big that happened, I at least thought it was pretty big this gen, is that they gave Scraggy close combat. So rather than having high jump kick and maybe someone tries to run stuff like protect or get a good switch into a ghost type or something to abuse your high jump kick, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Just click close combat.
Yeah, it getting close combat was huge. I think that alone has made it ban worthy. It's like it was always on edge for me, but now that it has close combat, it doesn't have to like run like the weaker drain punch or like have to worry about missing high jump kicks or high jump kicking into like protect or ghost types that like could pivot in.
Maybe I'm Maybe I'm just greedy, but I'm definitely a high jump kick kind of guy. I feel like because Scraggy's like bulky, right? And I feel like it's it kind of wants that bulk to set up. I mean, this gen it also got Trailblaze, right? I've seen a bulk up Trailblaze set do wonders. Um,
Oh, wow.
you kind
Not
of
too bad.
want high jump kick for that. I feel too.
I'm
Oh yeah,
I'm the
yeah. You can
opposite.
still run
I'm a
high
big
jump
drain.
kick,
I'm a
but
big drain punch guy. I'm a big
Oh,
drain punch guy. I'm a big drain punch guy. Getting I run fat as hell scrafty. We run a max fist def, max spin def. Even if we're running like offensive DD, I think I've seen so much success with just knocking the check early and positioning that DD later. Like it makes so much progress for itself that I don't think you need to be offensive in a lot of weeks. And I think that's something that is really overwhelming about it as well. To where I can DD or bulk up and then drain punch knock Iron Head through everything pretty comfortably.
yeah, it just gets that crazy coverage, and then it's able to run the crazy coverage. It's not like Timburr, where you're kind of stuck with like one thing.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
beauty
Or
of
you
it
pull up with the
is,
Scarf Moxie. You pull up with the Scarf Moxie set, and their answer is to immediately pivot into a Scarf faster than you. But they get into, they get like knock to it KO'd, close combat to it KO'd, high jump kick to it KO'd, coverage move to it KO'd, and then you just Moxie roll through a team. Like
yep,
that's also really bad for a lot of teams. And I think that's a set that people really don't explore enough. I think when they use Scraggy, and it's a set that people don't really prepare enough for any other side because things like fat bulk up and offensive DD sets are already so scary. Like it's kind of hard to justify doing so.
yeah, it's
just catch so many people off guard just with a scarf. I think in general, you just catch people off guard with a scarf when you're expecting so much more from a guy who can't even pull up his pants properly. Like fuck, goddamn.
Oh yeah, super
Alright.
insane on. Also, I do want to shout out that back in the early days LC, I remember in like Gen 7 LC draft, that guy was I think until like Gen 8 came around, that guy was back in the tier days too. It was consistently like a tier 2 mon.
Oh yeah,
Consistently,
I think
which
we
I
let
always
that.
thought was really
it
funny.
didn't really jump
It was for
above
like
as like the top
years.
fighting type until like
I
late
remember
last
the
gen.
first LC Wi-Fi season that APA ran. It was like my second LC season ever. I had Abra Scraggy. It was a core that was allowed to be drafted, and I think I got it like round 2 or something like that. Pretty broken. I think I went 10-0 though, so I guess it kind of shows. Like maybe he's closer to being banned than being a tier 2 mon.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
this.
honestly am starting to think he probably should be banned. I think he's just a bit insane.
Yeah, honestly,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
probably next up. If we do ban another mom, it'd be him. All right, next we have Galarian Farfetch'd. Oh wait, do you have anything else you want to add to the Scraggy discussion?
I just haven't seen enough from Scraggy yet. Like I don't know, it's definitely a scary mon to prep for, but this gen I just haven't seen it yet. So, or let's just hold off on the Scraggy thing, the Scraggy
Until,
ban.
until Greg can draft it, then we can.
Until I
Until
can draft
Grankie
my
gets to
boys,
draft
I
it
haven't
and
had
kill
Scraggy
everything
at
with it,
all.
then we'll ban it. That's like the whole entire
Yeah.
Yanma debate.
Yeah,
Bro,
yeah,
Yanma isn't that good because we
Uh,
haven't used it yet. Oh, we used Yanma, got 20 kills with it? Okay, let's ban it. Alright, next up we have Galarian Farfetch'd. Alright, why is Galarian Farfetch'd good?
I'm always 50-50 on this gun, so I'm interested to see what you guys say. I've seen people use it and say this mon is Jesus. He is super broken, so strong. And the reason obviously is like scrappy CC, in Tim, you just like CC knock everything and kind of win. I get it. It's also really bulky, decently fast. But I've also seen people in the other light use it and say, wow, this guy was not bad, but not what I was expecting him to be. So I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about this guy.
So I've used Galarian Farfetch'd a lot. I will say it is definitely. I think it's one of the fighters that appreciates sticky webs the most. I mean, Scraggy obviously likes them too, but Scraggy doesn't need them. Galarian Farfetch'd is a mon that I think goes from like 0 to 100 when I get sticky webs. I get fetch plus cutie fly a lot, just because like without sticky webs, 16 speed's not bad, but it's definitely not the tankiest of the fighters.
It is below
So being
17.
able to just yeah, it's 16. So which I mean 16 is not bad, but usually I end up just having like choice scarf it or like try and make an Eviolite bulky set work or something. But I think when you pair it with sticky webs and you can run Life Orb, it can intimidate it, hits right through ghost types. Pretty decent coverage all around. I think it's a really, really good Websmon, but I think it's like it's good, but I think I'd rather draft Pancham if I don't have webs, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I have noticed that too. You only see Farfetch'd on like Farfetch'd Cutie backwheel teams. It's what
Yeah.
it feels like, at least. Like it's always like a backwheel guy. And again, when you play enough Little Cup draft, especially last gen, I haven't played as much this gen to be fair. But last gen, it looked every draft was almost the same the first 2 rounds. Like
Mm-hmm.
the order in which things went with a
Yeah.
little bit of variation. And there's always the offensive fighting Cutie Webs team at the back end of the wheel. Always, without fail.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Either 7 or 8.
I've gotten that back wheel 3 separate drafts. Every time I'm player number 8, I will always get fetch cutie.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
100%. So yeah, that's also true. I have never seen fetch function on a team outside of that. The one time I've dropped fetched, it was fetch cutie. So I get it. I agree.
I have used fetch without webs before. I think it does have merit. Of course, webs does make it like way better, but
Infinitely
I
better.
do still think it has merit
Yeah.
without webs. Because its base attack is just so sky high. You just click close combat. You can click Brave Bird even. Like even a lot of the poison types that would be wanting to switch into these fighting types do have like the grass typing as well. You just click Brave Bird and just boom, they're dead. Brave Bird close combat knockoff. You'd be cheese for the final gambit. It does get quick attack. You can pick things off with that. Dual wing beat if you don't like Brave Bird, but I think Brave Bird is just way better. Night slash, poison jab, that sort
Yeah,
of
I think
thing.
it definitely has a place
Steel wing,
outside of webs. I
leaf
just
blade.
think Leaf Blade's a big one. Yeah, you can cut through some stuff, but actually not
Yeah.
that big. But it's fun for some mons.
Also, you run leak. I have run leak Galarian Farfetch'd so many times. It just get the guaranteed crits. It's crazy. It just if you run leak, you could get like a 33% chance to crit off of like close combat, or I think other ones like that,
Something like that.
or like 50%. I
That
don't
actually
remember
very
how high
fun.
leak makes it. I don't remember
No, I'll gas this up.
crit
I'll gas
stuff.
this one up as well, mate. I haven't ran leak yet. I've just been running like when I had Farfetch'd. I just ran Life Orb, bro. Like it just claims kills that you don't expect it to kind of claim. Like I feel like it's one of the strongest unboosted hits in the whole meta.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, and
Definitely.
yes, webs help it immensely. I don't think you need webs though. Like I feel like just Scarf by itself, even though you can easily prep for Scarf, it still claims so many kills. And I feel like 16 speed is not the best. It's obviously not 17 speed. I kind of think that's a blessing in a sense too, because so many 17 speeders have to deal with speed ties and all that stuff. Farfetch'd, you know that shit's going to get outsped. You can just kind of make a more optimal player around it instead of just risking the speed tie. But also, it's higher than 15 speed. Like, that's still half the majority of mons in this tier. That's still basically 10 points and under. You're outspeeding and killing them. So I'm gonna gas this mon up so much.
Oh yeah. All right, so it's
I think
50%.
it's T. Yeah,
Leak
I think
is
it's
50.
probably top 2 fighting.
50. Okay.
And then if you run Leaf Blade with
Yeah.
leak, you're always critting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely think that fetch is definitely good outside of webs. It's kind of the webs demon. Like you can make it work outside of webs, but if you're getting fetch, just get a duplicator, get a cutie fly, just get something. Hell, even I don't care if you get like Sawaddle or something. Just get webs somehow. It'll do damage.
Yeah, I like you could definitely. I'd say like definitely draft webs with it. It's like even if it's like a low tier mon, if you don't want to draft cutie fly or duplicator stuff like that, it's like a low tier web setter, some shit like Surskate or something like that. Then you can you can just grab webs. You don't have to run webs every single week, but you can just have it in the bag to like make your opponent fear that they're gonna have to face a webs Galarian Farfetch at some point. Because I think of these mons, it is the best web sweeper of the fighting types.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, Scraggy's right there. But
Scraggy's right
Fetch
there, but
is,
Scraggy dies to a moon to like a dazzling gleam or a draining kiss.
That's fair.
Like at least Galarian
At least-
Farfetch can live those tacked on coverages.
I
just
can live
like,
this, but it can also like final gambit them as well. So even though
Yeah.
it's kind of a waste, like obviously you'd rather keep your Farfetch'd around, especially as a Scarfer. It's such a
Well-
good late game cleaner. But
See,
if
I
you need
think
that fairy
depending.
gone,
Yeah, I think that that's super valid, especially if you're pairing it with a good offensive dark or something like that. Like, I don't know. LC is such like a it's such an offensive metagame too, especially when you start like you guys have played in Clash before. Those game plans and those lines become so specific to where the winning team typically has the first 5 turns planned out. The amount of I know we're talking about it in a little bit. The amount of times we brought Final Gambit Mankey to secure 70% on something to set up an endgame was a crazy amount in the season we won. Like I think that that's a really valuable aspect to have, even though maybe it's not the most typical use, and typically you want to get more out of your top end guy. Your round 2 pick might have a better matchup, and that might be your end game, might be your angle. So I don't think that's bad at all. I think
I'm
Final Gambit's
cheering.
actually a really, really slept on set.
I'm cheering at my sack by check to
Fantastic.
Galarian Farfetch'd when it clicks Final Gambit versus my check. I'm cheering at that point.
Hey, if that I'm just saying, is that a typical use? No. However,
My Grimer
it's just
took
a
out the
gen game,
Galarian Farfetch'd. Let's go.
I
It
don't
did its
need
job.
to win with. I don't need to win with Farfetch'd. I just need to win. So I mean, it's a valuable thing. I agree. I like Gambit. I think Gambit's a cool tech.
Yeah, I like Gambit.
Yeah, I think that
It's niche.
before we move on to the next one, that I think Farfetch'd main weakness is that you don't have a great way to break past some of the poison types, like Marini, Trubbish especially. Trubbish kind of just sits on you.
Well, Trubbish
obviously you
sits
get
on
around
like
with
most of
other
the
team
fighting
members.
types.
That's
I think like
true.
Scraggy's the only one that we discussed that can break through Trubbish.
Well, the thing is too, but hazards. Another thing. I don't know if we mentioned it. I was kind of spacing out a little bit. Another thing I don't know if we mentioned it is like the coverage, quote unquote, in Bravebird. Not that it hits things super effectively, but the neutral 120 coverage. We can set up a sword stance on that Trubbish coming in. If they're not at like just one rock switch or something like that, they're dying.
Oh,
They
yeah.
get hit, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Like
Yeah.
you're picking that thing off. So yes, is there some great checks to it? For sure. They got to be a fucking full.
Yeah,
Or
they
otherwise,
gotta
getting
fear that
blown up by a
SD
+2
set.
hit. Yeah, and if it's SD and SD super common under webs with that EV, you're pretty bulky. You're outspeeding a lot of things you would if you were Scarf. You know, like it is a great way. I've at +2 killed Bravebird, like Grimers, Grubbins, and Trubbishes a million times with that guy in the past. So
You're
absolutely,
also-
I
I think
agree.
that's it.
agree.
You're rarely running it. It does also get defog. So if you're another like if
I
you're
need
going against sticky
yeah,
webs, you can kind of
emergency.
run it maybe.
Emergency
Yeah.
defog. There
It's
you
an
go.
okay option, but
Also, you
something
can
worth
you can
mentioning.
take advantage of those fake out mons that are just spamming fake out with Steadfast.
Yeah.
I have 6-0 teams with Steadfast Galarian Farfetch as a lead. Because so many people just like
Well, especially
they
if-
see fake out and they want to click fake out.
Yeah, get the extra chip kind of thing. 100%.
Next thing you notice, you get
I think this is
flinch,
why
you're
we
at
should-
+1 speed, and you're just killing everything.
We should allow Mienfu, guys, because it gets checked by Farfetch'd really easy.
Oh my gosh, so
Uh-huh.
true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
true, man.
Well, if one mon beats it, that means it must be good.
It means it's not broken. It's not broken, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So alright, the next fighting type we've got is Pancham.
What makes
I'm a big
Pancham so
Pancham
good?
truther.
I love
I
Pancham.
love this guy.
So
This guy's
fun.
so good.
He's so fun.
I think my personal favorite fighting types in draft, like in LC draft, I love Scraggy, right? But we all love Scraggy. He's broken. Like all these guys are really good. This next 3 that we have here, Pancham, Mankey, Crab, some of my and then like even Croagunk, some of my absolute favorites because they're the number 2 guy usually, right? They're the second option. And we talked about it earlier, how well a good offensive fighting facilitates some of the more broken guys at the top. Like having Pancham plus one of those elite round 1 picks is such a beautiful feeling. I absolutely love having Pancham. It fits onto so many different teams. Very, very versatile in its sets. Again, another mon that just doesn't die with an Eevee light on it. Pretty darn bulky, great on webs, Swords Dance, bulk up. I mean, Iron Fist, Mold Breaker, and Scrappy, 3 incredible abilities in LC draft, by the way.
Yeah.
Like Mold Breaker for all the sturdy guys. Iron Fist is just makes you generally strong as hell. And then Scrappy in those Intim/Ghost matchups, really, really nice. I mean, I'm a big Pancham guy. I absolutely love this guy. I've never had a team where I had a Pancham that I didn't like.
Did
Yeah,
Pancham
another thing I
ever
want to mention with Pancham
did it get close combat?
is that did it?
I don't know.
I'm
It
like
had
blanking
super.
on
No,
that
did
now.
not. It did not.
It
It did
runs
not.
superpower when it's trying to break through those sturdy mons because you can't break through them other ways outside of like running
Yeah,
Yeah, it
SDs.
would-
because Drain Punch isn't killing. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Drain Punch isn't killing. Yeah.
Yeah, superpower or Iron Fist Drain Punch.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like the sturdy mons
I think-
specifically when you're running bull,
Oh, right, yeah.
Mold
I
breaker.
think another like really fun thing about Pancham is it's only one of 2 fighting types that actually get a pivoting move, so that's also really fun. And of course, Mold Breaker and its cover. Mold Breaker is probably the worst of the 3, but it's also able to get past stuff like Sticky Hold, Trubbish too.
Yeah.
I think it is the only. I think there's only. No, I lied. Okay, there's 2 good Mold Breaker mons. I thought there's only one. I forgot. Tinkatink also gets knockoff Mold Breaker.
I'm big on Moldbreaker Pancham though for those like sturdy raw. I mean, like there's so many masters where 4 attacks like lead Moldbreaker Pancham puts people in a terrible position. Whether
yeah.
it be through knocking or really punishing that rocker, and just blowing through them with a superpower or threatening them out because they see that you pop Moldbreaker and you get a free knock aggressively onto something else in the back. You're bulking up to live pretty much one of everything too. Like very little Okos and EV light lead Pancham. So really valuable one.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
get parting shot. That is the
Mhm.
pivot move.
That's another great. That is a great tool. That is a great tool. Again, facilitating those top end guys. Him and Mankey are just so good at it. Love those guys. Some of my favorite mods to use.
Let's
I
see.
don't have much to say about Pancham only because this mon always gets taken before I get it. That's the only.
You gotta take it round
only
one then.
reason.
You're taking it
I
round
have to
one
take it
now.
round one, and honestly, I think it's up there. It's not Scraggy, Timburr, Farfetch'd, but it's definitely a cut above Mankey and Crabrawler. I think there's tiers here.
Yeah,
and
it's
Pancham's,
definitely like
right in the middle.
it's literally just sits in its own tier. It's not the top tier of fighting types, but it's definitely better than like the second tier. So it's like a 1.5 tier.
I think facilitating those top mons is the most important point here as well, because Pancham is fighting. Like,
Yeah.
we know what a fighting does. We know what Timburr does. It's like Timburr with a parting shot, and no priority. They're different mons, but they work kind of similar. But
Yeah, they're definitely the most similar of the fighters.
Yeah, they're definitely like the most similar. It's like
Yeah.
I would compare Pancham to like Timburr without a priority move, but like better ways to hit
Yeah.
its checks because Mold Breaker
Mhm.
knockoff and Gunk Shot for the fairies.
doesn't it get
Yeah,
Zen Headbutt as well for opposing
does.
It does, yeah.
and fightings and stuff? And that was
So
another
I mean,
thing
you
as
don't
well.
even need to go like obviously Moldbreaker's great to knock off Trubbish, but you can also just be like bulk up or SD Zen Headbutt and just blow it up. You know,
Yep.
just absolutely blow through it. Like it doesn't take that hit. I also think it gets. Oh no, it doesn't get Earthquake. I'm tripping. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Nope.
not a lot of fighters get Earthquake.
I think
Shout out
it's a
to
big
Mankey, baby.
niche. Yeah.
Mankey's the only
Yeah,
one.
like
Speaking
it's
of,
like Mankey, Crabrawler. Actually, I guess Croagunk. I forget Croagunk got Earthquake.
mhm.
Why they give
I
Croagunk
got it
Earthquake?
here. Oh, he's cool.
One of the
makes
most
no
underrated things
sense.
as well is with fightings, they're often checking other fightings as well. And the fact that Pancham can beat other fightings says how much value
Yeah.
it has on a team.
Oh yeah. Unless you
Yeah,
use
for
unless
sure.
you're drafting Scraggy. You can use your fighting type to check other fightings unless it's Scraggy. Then you're not using Scraggy to check the other
Yeah.
fightings.
Oh, you're still using Scraggy to check Scraggy. I don't know about what you're talking about. It's all right.
Yeah, because one Scraggy's gotta win. One of them will win.
Yeah.
And the other will
Yeah.
lose.
All right, we got we're next up. We've got Mankey, the other fighter type that can pivot, but this time with U-turn.
Yeah. Mankey.
I
The
love this
Defiant
guy.
mod.
Defiance, yeah, Defiance incredible on this guy. Whether it be into Intim guys, into Webs teams, it really just bones Webs. Webs is so hard to play against with Mankey. And again, it's very like it's very one note, right? It's not a mon that's super versatile. 90% of the time you're gonna be wearing Scarf. We ran a lot of Eviolite when I used it in Clash a couple seasons ago. Like really bulky variants to kind of again eat one and blow something up with the crazy coverage it has. But it has cool tech options like Encore Mankey. Sick. Like really cool tool that it has with a decent speed tier. And I think it hits 17, right? Yeah.
It does hit
So, like,
17.
Encore is Yeah, Encore's a O button is really cool. And while we lack knock, we have coverage for pretty much everything we need. And knock for those what do you call it? Those psychics isn't even that big because they can't pivot in on U-turns and then switch into close combat later. Like they're just into a KO range at that point. Really like this guy, and again, there's also that final gambit aspect of hitting 24 HP at max HP. That's a lot of things dead. With a final gambit, which can also be really valuable to either kill something or just reset tempo, and get into something nice with a lot of damage on whatever check you wanted to put some damage on.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the Encore set because one of my favorite sets using with it was I forgot what I was encoring, but I encored something and then just got like 2 bulk ups up for free and blew them up.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and the bulk up aspect is great. I'm a big Mankey fan. This is one of the fightings I've used. Him and Pancham are like my 2 favorites to use, just because of how well they accent so many different playstyles.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest, I'm not as high on Mankey as everyone else, to be honest. I feel like it's just falls short so many times on me in the past, especially in team tours. It just doesn't, like, obviously fightings are good. It just doesn't have that damage to just clean up a game
Yeah.
sometimes. And it's just a shame because,
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's like, sorry, I've lost my words. It's okay. Go on, go on. Whoever's right.
I will say, out of the fighters, it's definitely one of my lesser favorite ones to do. I'm much more like into Pancham, Farfetch'd, Crabrawler, but Mankey has carried some of my games.
Mhm.
It's just definitely
Much more of a team player.
Yeah, it's a lot more frail than some of the other fighting types, so it
A
definitely
lot more. There
it
is.
plays a lot more. Yeah, you're very rarely going to use it for bulk, so it plays a lot differently than some of the other previously mentioned fighters.
Yeah, it's the pivot mon. That's how I would describe it as. Use it as for pivoting. Getting in your other stronger mons and then
So
using it to sweep late game.
yeah, the next up is probably the fighting type I have the least amount of experience with is Riolu.
Oh
I
yeah,
rarely
actually,
ever see it
I won't
get
lie.
used.
Wait, are we
I've never
skipping
drafted it,
over like for
personally.
brawler and stuff? Or are we just doing Riolu now?
No, we'll
Okay.
get there.
Okay, I mean, like,
I'm just
remember,
looking at the
like,
one I'm
we're
talking
already like 37 minutes in.
We'll
Jesus.
make it quick. We'll make it quick.
All
We've
right,
kind
we'll
of gone
make it
over
quick.
the really, really good ones. Outside of Crabrawler, who I also think is the GOAT, we're getting into like more Crabrawler, Croagunk.
Yeah,
But we're kind of getting into
they
the more
won't take
niche
like
ones.
10 minutes to talk about.
Okay,
It'll be fine.
Croagunk is
No.
very niche. Screw Croagunk.
Dude, I
I-
love that guy. You're a hater.
Oh,
Dude, that guy's the
And
GOAT.
Croagunk's sick. Okay, it's
Okay,
kind
let's
of
talk about Riolu, then we'll get to Croagunk. We'll yell at Tiro in
Yeah,
like 2
definitely.
seconds. I've never used Riolu either, so I'll let you guys take it over. I've never drafted this guy. So I
Copycat.
actually don't even. I know he does copycat bullshit, and that's
Yeah,
valid.
Prankster
really-
copycat,
it's
baby.
just-
Prankster bulk
Yeah,
up,
it's
Prankster
Swords
copycat,
Dance.
Prankster sword
Yeah,
stance.
you click Swords Dancer, bulk up, close combat, copycat it. That's about it.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
sucks?
I know
When you-
I've pivoted into my dark types on close combats because of that. Like, because I know it's copycat and then I'm faster. So, like, I think that's also a tough aspect of it. But I don't know. He seems like a very niche guy.
He's good on
Yeah,
Sun teams.
I've never drafted it. That's true. Prankster Sunny Day is pretty nice.
Yeah, Prankster Sunny
Oh,
Day.
yeah.
You can you can also Prankster copycat your Sun moves. If you're like Sun Sweeper died, you can be like a special set and just Prankster your Sun moves real quick.
Well, I think copycat definitely puts on a lot of pressure too. Because again, the only thing that's going to be immune to whatever you're clicking with copycat is a dark, and have fun switching to that, right? Like, it's really, really
Yeah.
risky. So yeah, I guess that's a cool aspect, right? If someone comes in and clicks a really strong attack and really strong itself, like, you just got an extra coverage move that's going to be difficult to switch into that your opponent might not have accounted for. So,
The thing
Yeah.
I like about it is I've never drafted it, but I have used it in standard and stuff like that. It's just a good like emergency button sometimes, and sometimes you just need that in draft, just for
Yeah.
a game plan. It's
Just
just
like having that sturdy boots guy, you know?
exactly. It's like having that magic guard sash.
Yep, 100%.
All right, we can get on to Cabral. I mean, not Cabral. We're gonna talk about Croagunk next. I'm so 50-50 on this mon.
The
It's
Mon
so,
isn't great. If you're drafting a fighting type,
weird.
there's so many different fighting types you can take over it.
Dude,
Take Stufful.
I used I used Croagunk in Dojo. I fucking love that guy. I used him before too, and I liked him then. I loved him this season too. He's again the speed tier a bit tough. Poison fighting, pretty meh, but pretty darn bulky with an Eviolite. Gain a water immunity, which I think is really valuable in Little Cup. Bullying most waters in the format, I think, is really, really valuable. I like that a lot. Really
sure.
strong prio on both sides. And on top of that, if you can find the position to get it in and get it to click an attack. Now, again, it's also not a mon that I brought all 8 weeks. I can actually pull up my stats because I keep all my stats and stuff like that. I definitely did not bring Croagunk every game. Some matchups, it's fucking terrible. It is not bringable in the slightest. But there's plenty of matchups where your opponent looks and like, wow, poison fighting dark, pretty good. Yeah, like
For sure.
it's a really, really scary combination of moves. Again, sometimes you just don't have the speed to do it, but I don't know. He's pretty good. He went. Actually, I lied. I brought him to 7 games that season. He went 6
Bad
and 4. He
speed.
was positive. He's positive, and he was a round 4 pick. That's pretty valuable to me.
I think the roll
Bad
compression
defenses.
is just very it's so valuable on it. I think
Mhm.
because these days you need a poison type. It's just because how prevalent fightings are. Just in general, in draft, you need a poison type, and Croagunk just fits that bill as that dark resist as well. The water you touched on the water immunity, that's phenomenal. I don't think a lot of people see it as setup. I don't think it's set up at all. I think it's just fine being, that bulky
4 attacks.
you know,
Mhm.
4 attacks, just
Yeah.
fire
Do
off
that nice
sludge bombs, fire off
30%
knockoff.
with your 4 attacks
Exactly.
because its attack stats aren't that great either. It's just
Yeah, but
all
the base
around
power
a
of the moves
meh.
are high enough.
It's just all around
Oh,
a
dude, I
meh
don't know. I
mon.
like it. And again, it also allows, and I think this is really important, is like those pivot plays, like pivoting through the water, pivoting through the fighting as, close combat or knockoff comes out, and then we're forcing things into clicking Zen headbutt, and then getting into something else to take that hit a little bit better neutrally, just to buy you a little bit more time into that offensive fighting on the other side. So I think being a fighting that beats or checks a lot of other fightings, / forces them to run Zen headbutt coverage, which sucks in 90% of situations. It's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty valuable. I like Croagunk a lot. He's a guy. He's a round 4 or 5 pick. Doesn't come to every game, but he clicks the buttons, and he's got a pretty great move pool too.
I'm glad
Yeah,
you
I
touched on
definitely
pivot
label
plays
him.
as well, because pivot plays are just so important in LC, especially in a tier where knockoff is the best move. Like hands down,
Mhm.
you just need that counterplay to just maneuver your way around tough situations, or else you're just going to get steamrolled every game by whoever sets up first.
Yeah,
So
100%.
Croagunk's very important for that.
All right, so the last we're gonna go over the like the weaker fighters. We'll do them really quick, but the last important fighting type we have Crabrawler. Crabrawler is another one of those like it's kind of does the same thing as Timburr and Pancham, but just doesn't have the same stuff they do. Like no mock punch, no guts, no parting shot.
But
But
it's
he's
fast.
yeah, he's
17
17 speed, which is really nice. He's
Mhm.
17 speed and way better bulk than Mankey has. Great
Oh,
coverage.
100%.
Way
It got
better.
knockoff this generation.
Its defense is good. Its special defense HP are pretty similar to Mankey.
Yeah, but the defense is the main thing.
Yeah.
Bulk
think
upset,
again-
got knockoff, great coverage. Not much to talk
Iron
about. It's
Fist
just
and Hypercutter. Yeah, Iron Fist and Hypercutter. Like Hypercutter is way more niche, but like Iron Fist 90% of the time, just you can click Drain Punch plus Elemental Punches, or again, you have Earthquake, you have Knockoff now, which I actually didn't even know it got that, which is
Yep.
crazy. You have Iron Head for Fairies too, which is also and Gunk. I'm missing Gunk. Like yeah, this guy has incredible coverage alongside Bulk Up and ridiculously strong mon.
Was Crabrawler always rated this highly, or is it just this
No,
gen where
it's
just been on the rise?
this gen it got
So-
good moves.
I will say,
Yeah,
I
this
want the
gen
streets to know
gave it knockoff.
one. I want the streets to know one of the Evo seasons where everybody said I had a shitty team again. I remember I did really good with Crabrawler, and everybody was like, "Wow, this guy's heat. Why did you draft him?" Dude, I knew it. I had the vision. It was last gen, so no knock. But dude, I loved using this guy. I forget what season it was. It was one
No
of the
knock,
LC Evo
no
seasons
gunk.
last. Dude,
I'm
okay,
so
I'll
glad you
Ironhead.
mentioned- I'm so glad you mentioned that. Last generation, I was a huge fan of Croagunk. Not Croagunk, Crabrawler. I used
Croagunk's bad.
Crabrawler so I used Crabrawler so much last gen because it was only like 8 points, and I was like, I don't feel like fighting
Yeah.
over getting a good fighting type, I'll just pick up this 8-point Crabrawler and make the rest of the team
It's
really good.
17 speed and has like 80 plus attack. Like ridiculous mon for that cheap. Yeah, I think I got it for that cheap too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just always 8 points. Like, fuck it, I don't need Pancham or Timburr. Just let me get like really good. Give me like first round Poniard. I'll get a good Psychic and then get a Crabrawler. Like, why not?
I am glad more people are picking up on Crabrawler. I'm only recent on him, but I was very high on him when the gen first started and I was playing standard LC. And Crabrawler was just terra-firing on everyone and terra-electricing, and I'm like, bro, can I just burn you, bro?
I mean, the big
Please.
issue was with that was because Crabrawler was the only fighting type in the beginning of
It was
LC.
also the
Yeah.
only fighting type, yes, but it was just so good.
It was the only one
Yeah, I was-
available.
Dude, I haven't played a lot of LC in general this gen. I think the dojo was the only LC league I've played all gen. And I was looking at when you guys said that we were gonna do a fighting video a couple weeks ago. I was like looking at the fightings and the decks like that are in Paldea. Even now, there's like none in this decks. Like it's really, really barren. And that's
Yeah,
like
it
with
got-
two
Yeah.
DLCs and everything.
Well,
added.
it's Mienfu now. It's Mienfu. You can get Mienfu, and then you're good. That's how LC is.
Well, yeah, that's why standard blows. So I mean, me
I
and
mean,
Fuvoldi are back,
as
so
Scarlet
metagame's
Violet
no
is
longer
better
fun.
than Sword and Shield for Smogon, I think,
Oh,
because
dude.
Smogon LC for
I mean,
Sword and
it's
Shield
fucking-
was just the same 6
I
mons
played-
over and
I
over
played
again.
a ton of Isle of Armor Smog, like Isle of Armor last gen. I played a ton then. I was grinding a ton of ladder in LC, and it was fun. I think I got to like it was either 6 or 3 on the ladder, and then all the guys came back, and it was the most stale metagame I've ever seen in my life. And they kept
Yep.
banning shit that just didn't fix. Oh, dude, it was bad.
They never banned the
said they were banning
Mienfu. They
Gen 8.
needed to ban the Mienfu. That's all I'm going to say. Like literally all
Alright.
Sword Shield LC was on Smogon was you put a Mienfu on the team, and then you build from there.
Well, it was like a set 4 or 5, and then you would have deviation with like 1 or 2 moms.
Yeah, exactly. It was terrible. You need to
Yeah.
if they banned Mienfu, I think it will really help the metagame. But whatever.
Chalk LC, baby. Let's go.
All right.
Alright, we've got just a few more fighting types to go over, but we're gonna make them all really quickly because they're the cheaper
Mhm.
ones. We've got Stufful.
So-
it's got
Stufful, the
ability
goat.
Fluffy. So
Fluffy,
Yeah, ability
double edge,
Fluffy.
like super powerful attack, double edge. It can set up with I think was it bulk up?
Yeah, Bulkum.
yeah,
It's also really cheap too, which is like nice. I like
Yeah,
it.
we'll
it's-
say
Using it
the
multiple times.
issue with Stufful is that your options for fighting coverage is superpower, and
Or
Or
then
brick break.
yeah, it's superpower and then low sweep. That's
Well, I guess
it.
brick break.
Also, brick and low sweep do like the same amount of damage to almost everything.
Yeah.
I know
Listen,
this for a fact.
Well, you're running
I
double
use-
edge mostly. You're using it for the normal stab.
Yeah, the low
Well, I
sweep
get
is
Hammer
like,
Arm too. I get Hammer Arm too, which is
oh,
like a
does it?
niche
Okay,
option. Yeah.
that's okay.
My favorite thing about Stufful, the boy eats. I used it in the dojo last season. It just eats everything. Like it just eats hamburgers. It eats fucking hot dogs. It eats fucking hits for days, bro.
Yeah.
Like plus normal spam, plus fighting spam, all that bullshit. It gets earthquake. It gets like Zen. I think it's a mid. I rate it
Yeah,
over
no,
Mankey.
it's definitely.
It's
a really
it's,
good
de-
mon.
it's
I
definitely
think
not
it
on the
would
top
pass.
tier. Definitely not a second tier, but it's still a really good pickup. If you don't have like a high tier fighting type, and you're like, you know what, just pick up Stufful. Stufful's pretty good. I
It's
rate
better
it.
than
So
Machop.
this,
Better
I
than
will say,
Machop, better than Croagunk. I rate it.
actually, next up we have Machop. I've been higher on Machop recently. I've been using just Scarf close combat sets and just blowing shit up. I mean, for like an 8-point fighter, pretty damn good. You got guts, you got really good coverage. I just Scarf it. I remember using like Scarf, Adamant, and then I think it was like Stone Edge or something to one-shot a Dupiter lead.
Mhm.
Don't
What's
you
the
dare hit my
speed?
Dupiter like that.
It's
It's-
pretty bad. That's
Is
the
it
only
14?
issue.
Yeah,
right?
it's bad. It's bad.
It's it's bad. You have to Scarf it.
Its
but
its special
14.
defense is terrible, but it has good HP. But you know, it's still like it's dying to like
Yeah.
Psychic or a Moonblast.
Machop's whole thing is that like it's one of those ones I feel like it's like either really really shice in a matchup and really cool and just smoke someone, or it's just unbringable.
Yeah, it's
just, like,
clicking
not really
dynamic
good.
punch. That's the thing.
And
It's
it
a
really-
dynamic
It
puncher.
really depends on like the speed tier with Scarf because I think Evilite is really bad. It's just very frail and very slow.
I feel
But
like
like
it would just do the job.
it's strong as hell with the moves it has too, and the combination of like guts and the no guard dynamic. But again, there's also matchups too, or like you see no ghost, like you also could just dynamic punch through and like give yourself free pivots and free confusion chip as things hit themselves and your opponent loses their mind. It's like there is value in like the cheese factor of it too.
Yeah, like it's definitely the worst out of the quote unquote good fighters, but I think it's. I mean, it's still pretty decent.
It's
Strong
usable.
stuff.
Yeah, it's a good mod.
It's
definitely draftable.
usable. It's usable. We're almost
All
at
right, now we're getting down.
to the
We've got 3 more. We got
unusables.
really considered. All right,
Don't
we're gonna
draft
make this really
these.
quickly. Really quickly,
Makuhita's cool.
Tyrogue. Tyrogue's shit. You got Rapid Spin. That's
It's
about
all
it.
you get is guts. So you just run Flame or Tyrogue with guts, and you just run priority.
I mean,
That's all you're doing.
If its stats weren't all base 35, it would have some merit as a Pokemon because of Guts and Mach Punch and Spin and like some pretty decent utility in that regard. It can't hit a Fighting Resist at all, which
Yeah.
sucks. And it has base 35 stats everywhere, so like it's just not viable. I know it's like 2 or 3 points in your league, and now you're like, wow, look at the move pool. How is this guy 3 points? Just don't draft it. Save
It's
yourself.
that because it's
I'm
terrible
telling you.
stats. That's why.
Yeah.
You're
And we have
drafting if you
Clobbopus.
ever draft it. Like I've drafted it a lot, like in like old times or whatever. And all I would do is just give it a Flame Orb and click priority. That's all it does. Like once it does once
Yeah.
it proc guts, it can hit like decently, and it gets high jump kick and crap like that. So it can still hit decently,
Just
but
what
it's
are you
dying to
hitting?
anything. You're
Yeah, what
clicking
are you
priority
hitting?
most of the time, anyways.
Yeah. We have next Clobbopus. It's like 5 points. I mean, if you don't have a fighter, then I guess like, does it even have Drain Punch?
I don't know what he does. I'll be honest. No idea
It's
what he
it's
There's
does.
not-
technician. That's all the Clobbopus is. It's just a technician hitter.
Yeah, it's kind of slow. The stats aren't all there. It's just not that great. You're not really doing a ton with it. I mean,
Don't draft
I
it.
if you
remember
don't
it-
have
If you don't have a
fighter,
fighting type,
then
then just survive without a fighting type.
yeah,
remember-
like it's kind of like if you don't have a fighter, but you have like 5 extra points, then like, I
Get
guess
something
why
better.
not?
Get something better at 5. Come on.
There's no, like, there's like what Swablu that I'd say is better. Maybe Zubat.
Most of the 5-point tier. Come on. It's a Clobbopus. All you're doing is you're either clicking its niche technician moves or close combat, and then you're slow as shit.
Yeah, I mean it's not great.
I remember a season of APA. I think I was on a team with Itzia. He was gassing this mod. I'm just like, okay, cool. It's like 5 point
No.
fight. It's cool.
He's cute as hell. I love his design. He's terrible.
Why he's not I don't know why he's not a water type. I really don't.
His coverage
sound
is
cool.
fighting and water moves. That's its coverage.
If he was water, he'd be a little bit better at least. Give him like technician on Jet.
Oh, he does get sucker
then he has
punch.
to
There you
do
go,
that.
sucker.
True. But then he has to compare with the other waters as well, doesn't he?
Yeah,
So,
I'm not saying he'd be great, but he'd have something to do at least.
Yeah, give him water fighting. If you have water fighting, then good typing. That's
Water
it.
fighting and then technician Aqua Jet, and that'd be fine. All right, very last fighting type, we've got Makuhita. He
Bad.
is.
He's
bad,
there.
but kind of it.
I think he's better than Clobbopus. We'll give him that. I like Makuhita.
Yeah.
I've
He's
used
better
him
than
before.
Clobbopus. That's about it.
He's got knockoff. Go Meteorite. The stats are okay.
His
if you got,
Defenses
like,
are garbage, but it
I
has
don't know.
good HP. Everything
Yeah,
is
so,
garbage
like, he's
except
got
its attack and
belly
HP.
drum. Yeah, he's got.
You're
belly
never
drum,
getting a
but
belly drum
Pokemon-
off versus a semi-competent player with this thing.
You could, maybe.
Well, you're gonna need
Confused.
you're gonna need your opponent to have an aneurysm at that point. This ain't doing
You
shit.
can set him up.
but then what are you gonna do?
You
Bullet
can
punch?
set him up. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you got sticky webs, you can make it work. I'm not saying it's good.
It's still
I'm
slower
trying
than everything under sticky webs. This thing doesn't hit his
I'm trying
ass
to
at
give
all.
my man. I'm trying to give my man some credit here. Okay.
Bro, we trash talk Tyrogue, we're trash talking Makuhita.
God damn it. I'm sorry, Makuhita.
No, nah. It's better than Tyrogue. I give it that. It's better than Tyrogue and Clobbopus, but it's not much better than them.
There's also like some leagues allow Meditite with no pure power. Don't draft that thing. That don't.
Yeah,
It's got like 30 base attack. Skip
Yeah,
it. Please don't. There's
Yeah,
nothing else
it's
to say, just
that's
don't.
worse Tyrogue.
No, it's garbage. Don't draft Meditite if it doesn't have pure power. If it does have pure power, then your league's dumb for allowing that.
Yeah, if it does have pure power, then it's in Uber's league. That's what I'm assuming.
Pretty much. Yep. All right. Well, that is all the fighting types and everything with that.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll talk more about like how to check fighting types and all that, but that'll be a future video. I appreciate you two for coming onto the show.
Yeah, thank you all so
Yeah, it was
much.
fun. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So
I think that's about it.
yeah, that'll be it. Thank
Next
you all
video
so much for
should be-
joining. And thank you all so much for watching. And what's the next
See
video?
you. Next video should be about knockoff.
Knockoff. Ooh.
That'll be
We discussed that with the fighting types. A lot of fighting types do get knockoff. Ooh.
True, yeah. But we'll go more in depth about it there.
Yeah.
All right, bye everyone.
All right. Thank you. Bye.